Russia intensifies its attacks on Ukraine on multiple fronts. This is the result of an airstrike near the city of Lviv. Those reaching safety escaping the besieged city of Mariupol have endured weeks of Russian shelling.
There are dead people lying around and no one to take them. They just lie there. It shouldn't be like this. Someone must intervene.
At a rally in Moscow, Vladimir Putin praises what he calls Russia's heroic deeds in Ukraine. Joe Biden warned his Chinese counterpart about the consequences of providing material support to Russia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Amid the ongoing war, it seems to be business as usual in space travel. 3 Russian cosmonauts wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag have docked at the International Space Station.
Our headlines today. Fighting reaches the center of the besieged city of Mariupol, where more than 80% of residential buildings have been damaged or destroyed by Russian bombing.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says 300,000 people are still stuck in Mariupol as he calls for meaningful talks with Russia.
Let's take you through the papers. Ukraine continues to dominate, of course, most of the front pages. The Telegraph says that the US President, Joe Biden, has warned Beijing or China that it will face consequences if it provides Russia with weapons to help its invasion of Ukraine. Of course, he had a meeting with President Xi Jinping.
Let's have a look at the Times. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has told the Times the Kremlin is using peace talks with Ukraine as a smokescreen while it prepares to carry out more appalling atrocities.
Putin parties, Ukraine burns. That's the iWeekend's headline. It's reporting on the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, at a rally in Moscow yesterday, which was marking the 8th anniversary of the annexation of Crimea. Time to bring you up to date with everything that's been happening in Ukraine overnight. John Donaldson's doing that for us today. And it's at this time of the day we get an update from the Ministry of Defence here in the UK as well, don't we?
Yeah, British intelligence officials saying they've seen a sort of shift in Russian tactics, making this more of a war of attrition, more use of those kind of long-range missiles. And one of the consequences of that, more civilian casualties, more damage to civilian infrastructure. It's reflected in the map this morning. Let's just bring up the overall picture in Ukraine. And as you can see, those red areas under full Russian control, not really expanding that much, perhaps making some progress in the south. But as we've been reporting this week, Russian military advances appear to have largely stalled, hence perhaps that shift in tactics. However, there has been one significant military development overnight. Ukraine's armed forces say the Russians have managed to temporarily take hold of the Sea of Azov and restrict access to Ukrainians to the Sea of Azov. That is, of course, connects to the Black Sea, and you've got the city of Mariupol there, which we've been talking a lot about. Let's just look at some new drone images we've got from Mariupol, and you can see it's really been hollowed out by weeks of Russian bombardment. This building used to be a shopping centre, and around 300,000 people are trapped in that city with no electricity, gas or running water. Officials there say more than 80% of residential buildings are either damaged or destroyed. These are just apartment blocks, and they say the fighting has now reached the centre of the city and that it's close to falling to the Russians. Some people, though, have been able to get out. You can see here on this satellite image a column of cars leaving the cities, families packed into vehicles, not knowing really if they're ever going to be able to return. President Volodymyr Zelensky has said last night more than 9,000 people were able to escape Mariupol yesterday through one of 7 humanitarian corridors that have been set up across the country. This morning, an evacuation route is opening in the Luhansk region in the east. Let's also take a listen to what President Zelensky had to say about those peace talks, which are still ongoing.
We
have always insisted on negotiations. We have always offered dialogue, offered solutions for peace, not just for 23 days of invasion. And I want everyone to hear me now, especially in Moscow. It's time to meet, time to talk. It is time to restore territorial integrity and justice for Ukraine.
So he wants direct talks with President Vladimir Putin, who, of course, was holding that huge rally in Moscow yesterday, a show he said of Russian unity and support for what he calls a military operation. The BBC did, however, speak to people in the crowd at that rally who were public sector workers, students, who said they'd been pressured into attending that demonstration, had been specially bussed in. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis grows ever worse. The UN says nearly 6.5 million people are now displaced inside Ukraine after just over 3 weeks of war. These pictures are from the railway station in the western city of Lviv. Many, of course, have fled fighting in those cities further east for the relative safety of the west of the country. 3.2 million people have now left Ukraine altogether. From the map, you can see they're heading to a number of countries in the west, but the vast majority still going to Poland. Over 2 million, mostly women and children. That's according to the Polish Border Agency. And finally, let's take a look now at these moving images from Lviv. Each of these pushchairs represents a child killed in this conflict. This was this morning. We've had an update from Ukrainian officials who say that number now sadly stands at 112. 140 children have been wounded. And that is where we are, 3 and a bit weeks into this war, with some pretty poignant images there.
It's chilling. It's just chilling, a chilling reality, isn't it, what's happening there?
Showing no sign of let-up.
John, thank you very much.
Yes, and some of the stuff you saw with John a moment ago, those images of the prams right at the end there, are very, very moving. And that is partly why, of course, so many people here in the UK have been determined to do whatever they can to help those people in Ukraine.
There have been some extraordinary efforts by communities across the UK. The former Prime Minister, actually, David Cameron, has been working with a charity in Oxfordshire. He posted this photo on social media ahead of his departure to Poland. He's driving a van full of donations to help those in need. Now, fire stations all across the UK have been collecting kit and equipment with the aim of delivering that to Ukrainian firefighters who are working on the front line.